You are listening to Get Real Podcast.
Call Glennard Skinnard.
Calling Glennard Skinnard. Mobile.
And we're back.
That we are.
Glennard Skinnard. The other day, I had been looking forward to it for a while, but I had some much needed family time that needed to happen, and it was certainly a blessing near Father's Day weekend.
Yes,
and it was a blessing. But I missed Filthy Rags, the band, the ministry, the force known as Filthy Rags.
The force to be reckoned with.
You got to catch me up, and we're not faking it because it wouldn't be very real to fake it. I don't know that much. You've told me little bits and pieces, but I want to kind of hear some stuff and pick your brain about what happened with your weekend with Filthy Rags.
I am going to explode. Just mind explosion right now. It's just all going to come oozing out because after that weekend, I was on such a high. Not because I was doing DMT or anything like that. We're going to talk
reptile aliens made of light.
Made of light that we're going to talk about in a episode coming up real soon. But I got to spend time. Harry and Mel from Filthy Rags, they are real people, not just holograms on Skype that we talk to. So they do exist. We did have a Harry and Mel sighting here in Charleston, South Carolina.
A sighting.
But they came through with the Extreme Tour. And
what is the Extreme Tour, Glenn?
Gee, Dan, let me explain. It is a collection of artists that come in. And in this case, it was musical artists that came into town. And their whole focus, they use the music as outreach. The night before they did their show, they were in downtown Charleston until about 2 o'clock in the morning sharing the gospel with people.
Wow.
And just sharing the love of Christ. And when Harry and Mel, when they came into town, I got to meet them just as they rolled in. I mean, I was waiting for them at the church that they came to, and they opened up the door, and I heard their voice. And I was like, that's Harry and Mel.
So you were the first face they saw in Charleston?
Yes.
Folks, right now we want to have a quick word of prayer around the world. Like to join our hearts and hands.
But we spent probably about an hour to an hour and a half after they got into town. They were getting ready. The way they got ready for what they were about to do really impressed me. It's one thing to say, hey, we're going to go out and share the gospel with people, or hey, we're going to pray about this before we go. Before they engaged in anything, they really wanted a lot of detail about the spiritual condition of the areas that they were going to. They were doing their intel work, and that really enlightened me and showed me that it's one thing to pray for things, but then it's one thing to pray with knowledge.
Well, I don't know about you, but it's intimidating. Like when we did the interview with them, and I hear about what they do and the fact that they go into areas that need ministry.
Yes.
Rough places,
yeah.
Hurting people. It kind of gives me an unsettled feeling because it makes it very real. When people talk about at-risk youth, people with serious drug issues, you almost feel like, I kind of want the safety of that nice church building and those well-mannered people. And they do the opposite. They go into the fire.
They do.
And part of that, I'm embarrassed to say, makes me feel uncomfortable. It doesn't, like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. It's wonderful. Okay, they're salt of the earth. It's like, it's spiritually intimidating. Is that the way to put it?
I think that's the way to put it. Yeah, their faith. The whole time that I was with them and everybody else, and I'm going to talk about everybody else that I got to meet on the tour,
makes me feel like a flesh ball.
I felt like a turd sandwich.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, let's put it that way.
That's what I was trying to say, Glenn. You're so fluent when it comes to the King's English.
Yes, real
Dan.
podcast.
What you're trying to say is theologically, you feel like a turd sandwich. Okay.
Yeah. That's the one for the books.
And not knocking what they're doing is that's a real ministry. What does she say? She says, I'm going to go in there and I want the Holy Ghost to knock the hell out of somebody.
Yeah.
But she said something else. I can't remember. I listened to that podcast the other day.
We'll have to go back and listen to that one. So I got to see them Saturday night when they came into town, and I was intimidated. I have to admit that.
What part of the actual ministry.
Dan,
well, this is hardcore ministry.
No, I'm an introvert, and that's a problem.
Yeah, okay, I am too, and that's why we put on a podcast and talk to people all over the world
via Skype. But it's different. I mean, I am very introverted. It doesn't seem like it here because I'm flowing in something that God's given a gift in. I think that I'm kind of gifted to do this. But really what it comes down to is moving in that flow. I feel comfortable in this environment. It got me out of my comfort zone. And then we went to go see them lead worship on Sunday before they did the show. And mind you, they got like 3 hours of sleep. And they were on point leading worship.
First of all, I've only read it one other time, but I started using it, and then I was like, I wonder if that's even a word. I think you're kind of a polyvert, and that's probably not even a real word. What I'm trying to say is you're selectively extroverted.
Okay.
If you're around the right group that you feel comfortable with, you're a ham. Okay, you are a ham, dude.
Okay.
Glenn's a riot to travel with. He's like, oh, yeah, pancakes. Wow. I mean, everything's like metal to him. It's like, whoa, did you see the restrooms? How clean they were? Wow.
Dude, there were ice cubes in the urinal.
Yeah, it was like awesome.
Big time.
And those breath mints, the pink things. Yeah. No, but you're a lot of fun to hang out with, and you're not like introverted in the classic sense of Glenn's over there like, you know, pondering things just like in a corner somewhere.
Let me ponder.
And you were a really good salesperson. You were a good salesman. I remember I was like, whoa, Glenn's got this down. He's like, hey, how's it going, Joe? And then you're just like one after another. And I can be that way. I'm like INTJ. Have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs, which a lot of Christians think it's totally demonic? What were you? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but it's not demonic.
Well, who was the guy? Carl Jung? He basically was like these entities came out he went all Sturgill Simpson. And then he was like these entities kind of came out and told him, you know, these are these classifications. I don't know, dude. But you don't remember what you were?
I don't remember.
You were INT cheeseburger?
Cheeseburger. It was something cheeseburger metal pancake.
Okay.
Cheeseburger metal pancake is what it was. So we saw them during worship. I was blown away by what they did. The church that we went to, Victory Christian Church in Goose Creek, South Carolina, man, many blessings on those people for hosting the entire Extreme Tour to stay there. We're talking a whole bunch of artists. Harry was right. It was kind of like a Woodstock hippie love fest, which was really, really kind of cool. Wonderful people at Victory Christian Church. The worship that morning just blew me away. And here's the thing, is that Victory Christian, it's not your mega church, okay? It's just a building, and when you go in and when anointed worship starts, and God sets down. So
you were in the third campus overflow satellite room?
That's right, I was in the third campus, exactly.
And then they rode you over by golf cart to
exactly
to the family life. Luxury.
Family life luxury.
We're not knocking if you got infrastructure. It's just these people are really using whatever they've got.
What they've got. God blesses that.
See, you know, the incongruity that I see with the band Filthy Rags is that normally when you have somebody that's got great talent, musical chops, great guitar playing, songwriting, they're really, really good.
Oh, they are. They are.
So they could go to a lot of festivals, a lot of things, a lot of bigger venues, and not skip a beat at all.
No.
And if you listen to their music, Glenn will tell you later how to find their music and buy stuff and, you know, get stuff from them and help support them. But it's rare when you see a group like that goes to minister primarily, and then they'll go into, you told me one thing that connected with me, they'll go in there, and if there are 3 people there, they're going to rock.
They're going to rock no matter what.
That's awesome.
No matter what. And here's the thing, Dan. You're getting me excited. Polyvert is coming out right now.
Okay. Polyvert, you heard it right here. I think I invented the term.
Not Polly Pocket, but Polyvert is coming out. Every one of those musicians that played and was at that event blew me away.
Wow.
There was not one. They are all at the international, they should be at major festival level. Every one of them. I'm going to talk about some of them in just a minute. But here's the really funny thing, Dan. Get this, all right? So they do the event that Sunday afternoon, and they go to a lower income, very depressed area. Mm-hmm. And I'm all excited. And I got Deb with me, and I got my two of my children with me, my youngest son and my daughter. And it was Father's Day. And it's like, this is what we're going to do for Father's Day. It's like, we're going to a Christian concert. Now, of course, you know what all gets in their minds is that we're going to go and there's going to be like this big stage and smoke machines and lights and, you know, mega everything. So we go and there's like, you know, some sound system set up under a tent and a couple tents, and that's about it. In the middle of this grass field, there's nothing there. So I wish I had a picture of everybody's faces looking at me when we pulled up in the car. I was in the car. It's like I could read it in my daughter's mind. Dad, what are you getting us into?
We're in an empty field.
It's an empty field. Where's the stage and just probably what was going on in their mind. And we get there, and I was able to do a brief interview with Harry and Mel. We're going to play that in just a minute about some of the things that I learned more about them during the event. But we get there, and it starts. And the first person to perform is the R&B singer, Abby Lindo. Whoa. My daughter was so into Abby Lindo. It was just absolutely amazing. So while all this is going on, I meet a couple guys from another metal band, Slaves to Change. This is where it gets fun. Within about 3 minutes, we're talking about Martin Luther's flatulence.
Kindred spirits.
Kindred spirits. We're talking about how far off the deep end the majority of the church is gone and how it's difficult. You know, if you find yourself at a church and they're getting you to sign the contract commitment card to the rules and regulations, flee. Okay, with these are the things we're talking about. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So Abby Lindo was the first one up. The next one was a hip hop artist, Psalm. Wow. Okay, dude, I'm a metal guy. All right, and something interesting came out from one of our listeners in just a few minutes. We'll talk about that too. He had chops. He was the real deal. He wasn't Vanilla Ice in it. You know what I'm saying? It was like ice baby. All right, it wasn't that at all. It was genuine. I mean, he was real. That's what I liked about something. He was real. And the whole time, and mind you, there's about 10 people here at the show. He's pouring his soul out to everybody that's there. And he's actually, he doesn't stay in the performance area. He's out walking around the park, sitting down, talking to kids while he's doing this. And you see the true love of Christ just coming through him as he's ministering. And doing all this.
That's really cool because in a way it's a filter because you have a tour and a venue that is not focused on making you rich and famous.
Right.
And even with the different genres, especially with metal, if you want to get rich in the United States, hip hop or pop music would be a much better choice than playing metal. But it's like when you get a group that is talented that says, no, we're here for an aggressive reason. It's what God's put on our heart. That's a big deal.
I posted a video of Psalm on our Lithos Cry Facebook page and on our Instagram page. And I got a message from one of our listeners in Australia who saw the video. And she's a metalhead to the bone, all right? And
is this the cartoonist?
Yes, this is the cartoonist.
Okay. Hey, thank you. That was cool.
Yeah, we're going to talk to her in a couple weeks, as a matter of fact. She's like, Glenn, I like a metal, but I like this guy. I don't even really like hip hop. I like this guy. And I sent a text back, and this is what really was hitting me is that God loves metal. He loves country. He's all of those things. All right? We're limited in what we like and what we don't like because we're limited fallen creatures. But God is in all of that. But what makes his music transcend gender is the Spirit of God. God's Spirit transcends genre.
Gender.
Yeah.
Gender fluidity. I'm out of here.
God's Spirit transcends genre.
Yeah. He doesn't like bro country, though. I can prove that to you in Scripture, but go ahead.
So that was her. And she was like, I got to check this guy out more. And you know, she was really taken by what he did. Then after Psalm was Harry and Mel. Mel is an angelic tornado. She tore it up. And the thing that I like about it too is that there ain't no auto tune that they're using.
Oh no!
All right,
She's got pipes.
She's got pipes, and Harry, dude, that guy can shred. I mean, just shred. And I had goosebumps while I was watching them perform. It was just unreal. They did about four or five songs. I did video for some of them. We're slowly getting to the point where we're posting those videos up on our YouTube channel so that people can see those and share those. But it was just amazing. And the whole time you're there, after everything got started, you didn't realize that you were in a economically depressed neighborhood in the middle of a park where there's nothing. And my wife, Deb, she was even like, after we left, she's like, wow, you could just feel the protection of the Lord in that whole neighborhood when that was going on. So then after Harry and Mel with Filthy Rags, boy, did we get a treat. Young lady goes by the name Nedy. She is from California. Whoa. She can dance. She dances. I can't dance, so anybody who can dance, I'm impressed with.
Glenn speaks truth. He cannot dance.
I cannot dance. But she started off with an acoustic song. We posted it on our Facebook page. The best way that I can describe her is sheer spiritual sass.
Huh. Okay. I got to check out
Yeah,
Nedy.
you got to check out Nedy. Sheer spiritual sass. Just absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, we eventually had to leave, so we had to leave during the time that Nedy was up there. But from what I saw, I was just blown away. We are working on getting her on the podcast because I want to figure out how I can learn how to dance like that. But you know, it was just absolutely amazing what they did, and I've never experienced anything like that. And it was not about the music. The music to them is a vehicle. And it's not about them. It's not about them being popular. It's not about them. If they wanted to be popular, they've all got the ability to go be popular.
Yeah.
Every one of them. There was nobody there that was a third-rate or second-rate band or act at all. It was class to the max. And I had no idea. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you, Dan, and I'd like to share with our listeners how I got to the Extreme Tour.
How'd you get there, Glenn?
So let's go back in time to May of 2017. In May of 2017, Glenn and Deb loaded up the family trucks to take a trip that consisted of a total of 868 round-trip miles and 14 hours to travel to Tampa, Florida. And what were Deb and Glenn going to do in Tampa, Florida? They were going to take in a really good metal show. Who was the headline? It was a co-headliner show with Delane and Hammerfall. So Glenn and Deb make it to Tampa, Florida, after visiting Clearwater and a few, the aquarium and a few cool things before the show.
Pancakes?
Pancakes. Yes, we had pancakes and steak. And I think there was a cheeseburger thrown in there too, somewhere. We get to the show, and the opening act for Delane and Hammerfall is a band called Armor of God. Now, Glenn and Deb have no idea. I've never heard of Armor of God, but I'm like, gee, that's a really interesting name for a metal band to be opening up for Hammerfall and Delane. They start their set, and I'm like, wow, that's really good music. So they get done, and where Glenn's standing, he sees the lead singer, Carla Danielle, about 20, 30 feet away from him, and yells like a lunatic to her, hey, where are you guys from? And she's like, we're from Orlando, Florida. Well, that ended that story until about a year later when Dan and Glenn decide to start the Get Real podcast. Then Glenn reaches out to Orlando thinking, gee, is this guy even going to email me back saying, hey, Orlando, can we use one of your songs as an opening for our new podcast? Now, Orlando didn't even know what our podcast was going to be about. Kind of knew it was something about Jesus and the Bible and something like that and something to do with metal. He's like, sure, go ahead and do it. So you do that. And then eventually we bring Carla and the crew and Orlando on the show. We're getting somewhere with this, people. It's a really long process, all right? So, after that, a few months pass by. Dan and Glenn go down to visit Carla, Danielle, and Armor of God, and Sam's with us too, and we have a nice brunch and see them perform. It's totally awesome. A couple more months pass by. Orlando sends Glenn a message. Hey Glenn, you might want to check out this band. They're really good. And the band is Filthy Rags. Now, mind you, I traveled 868 miles, 14 hours to get to this point. All right? So, I reach out to Harry and Mel. I'm like, hey, would you like to be on our podcast? Not even knowing if they would even respond or be interested. And they're like, sure, that sounds good. When would you like to do that?
That's cool.
Okay? So, we bring them on the podcast and we hear about this thing called the Extreme Tour that they're a part of. And then we have another friend who's all the way over in the UK, Peter Field from Peter 118. He starts talking about this thing called the Extreme Tour that they have in the UK. So putting two and two together, it's like, gee, we had one guest in the United States talk about the Extreme Tour and one in the UK talk about the Extreme Tour. This must be something worth looking into. So we find out during the podcast that Harry and Mel are coming to Charleston, South Carolina on June 17th. So 868 miles, 14 hours to Tampa, Florida, several editions of a podcast, several interviews. We wind up 23 minutes and 22.8 miles down the street from the Get Real studio at the Extreme Tour.
That's a good story. That's
It just
awesome.
goes
And
to
every
show.
one of those people has had a real special blessing of God on them. But and Peter
Yeah.
and his bassist, we need to
Andy.
reach out to him. They were wonderful when we talked to him last time.
And they have the same heart that Harry and Mel do.
Yeah,
they
totally,
really do.
Totally.
So fortunately, while I was down at that grassy, empty field, I was able to talk to Harry and Mel a little bit more and get a field interview with them and talk to them. And I want to play that. So here's what we got to talk about just before the show, just a couple days ago. Well, I'm out here with Harry and Mel from Filthy Rags. We are in North Charleston, South Carolina, the land of fire ants.
Oh, not excited about fire ants.
The land of 1,000 brake lights.
Did you know that fire ants are the wasp family and they sting you?
I did not know that they were part of the wasp family.
They're jerks.
This morning we got to see you at Victory Christian Church lead worship.
I'm sorry.
And Harry, it was amazing. It was anointed.
like it?
I
Good.
really did.
So anointed.
One of the things that I want to ask you about is you go into free song very freely. What's it like when you move into that?
I think it's like, this isn't working, so she goes into that. It's kinda,
Maybe a little bit more so. It's just like I'll get a thought in my head
it's like reading someone's mind.
and I will sing the thought. And as long as the thought lines up with scripture, then it's from God. So, like, I know a lot of scripture, which I'm grateful for. That came from my grandparents in the Baptist church. I
Yeah.
love them. But that's kind of how it is. It's like I'll have my eyes closed and I'll have a thought. And this morning's thought was, I'll go looking for you. And you satisfy my soul with your love. So that's what happened. That's how it goes. I don't know. That's how it goes.
And this morning you led us in worship, and this afternoon you're going to be doing something a little bit different. Can you explain the difference between leading in worship and what you're going to be doing this afternoon?
Well, this afternoon, we're part of an event, and so the overall strategy kind of comes together as a whole. So we just play a small part of that. So the part we're playing today is more of just trying to really connect to the audience. We'll probably try to play some songs that are kind of like, hey, can you relate to this? And really just try to draw them in. So yeah, that's kind of our strategy for today.
Also, this is our music that we've recorded, so that's kind of the difference, is that this morning we were playing someone else's music, and this is our sort of like heart of worship, to God. So, I mean, they're both aspects of worship. One is just a little more, I guess, incognito than the other, but our goal is to kind of live our lives as living sacrifice or worship to the God that we serve. And part of that is coming out here and doing this and playing this music in communities like this.
I do have to say that live this morning sounded just as good as recording.
Oh, you're so funny.
If somebody wants the Extreme Tour to come to their town, you guys to come, what do they need to do?
Please contact me immediately at 260-445-8734, or you can email me at xtmelissa.b as in boy @gmail.com, or you can go to www.theextremetour.com and you can actually log in there and request the Extreme Tour to come to your area.
Awesome. One last question for you. 16 that you sang this morning. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because we're going to play the bootlegged version that we got this morning on the Get Real podcast.
16 is, I was sitting in my house and I was like, God, I want to write a song. And so I started to write a song and I was like, this isn't working out. What do you want to hear? And he's like, turn to the Psalms. And so I turned to Psalm 16 and I started writing. It's out of the Message Bible, which I love his poetry, the way that he wrote scripture. And I just sat down and it just came flowing out. And then Harry was like, you should record that. And I'm like, I don't want to. And he was like, well, let's just do it anyway. And so he kind of made me, and then I was really excited about it after that. And so I was really grateful that God gave me a good song. And it's just his words, you know, so.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being down here.
Yeah.
It's so good to see you finally in person.
Yay! Thank you so much, Glenn. We love you to pieces, man, and we're super glad to be here on your podcast.
There is a studio version of that song, and it's done, and there's actually a video in the making right now for that. I might be able to just email you that song, and it's not released yet, but I might let you have a copy of it.
All right. Oh, wow. Exclusive. I like that. Exclusive. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you, man.
Bless you tonight.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have to give you mobile production props.
Thank you.
The way that you cranked up that lawnmower to augment the segment, that was wonderful.
That was the power generator that they used for the sound system.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what that was. Yeah. Yeah, as I said, when you got there really wasn't that much there. It was just what it is. And, you know, I'm not knocking, I mean, I love smoke machines. I love lights. I love all that stuff. And I think all too often we get trapped up in, we got to have that for people to respond to the gospel. It's nice to have that. And if you got that, hey, that's great. If God's blessed you with that, that's awesome. But that's not what draws people to the gospel.
Yeah.
What draws people to the gospel is the heart and the genuine heart of the people that are ministering the gospel. That's it.
Well, you can hear that heart through Harry and Mel, big time.
You can. So I have here the official bootlegged version of 16 that she did at Victory Christian Church. This is one of their newer songs. It's just so cool because you see them leading in worship on Sunday morning, and then on Sunday afternoon they're out there just melting your face off. I mean, the transition, and it just goes to show how God is not just this one thing. Okay, it's just not just one stream. Well, it's just got to be hymns sung like a Coldplay song. You know, it's not that at all. We don't know anything really about God. We don't.
Yeah.
You know, the more I study Scripture, I'm like, the more I study, the less I know.
Yeah, it's a glass darkly.
It is.
Heavy duty darkly.
So here is 16 by Filthy Rags.
This is a special song. I just wrote this. It's based off Psalm 16. It's called 16. This looks so clever.
Ain't nothing gonna make me more, yeah. I'm singing, I'm standing in this place with you. I'm staying, I'm standing in this place with you. I'm staying, I'm standing in this place with you.
Powerful.
Powerful. Very powerful. One of the things that Mel shared with me before we left on Sunday, and this goes to show that it's really God that's doing this. She said that a lot of times they'll go into a community and they'll minister to people, or there'll be people that pass by and they pick up something that's been sung, said, or performed, and they'll just pass by. And then several weeks or months later, they'll hear back from somebody that had some contact with the event and how that affected them. It's just so cool how that seed, it gets planted, even though you might not see the results of what you're planting right there at that time, which is what we kind of want to do in our instantaneous society. So what we want to see it now. But that just goes to show how God takes what they do, and you don't know where somebody's at when they walk by. You don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know what God's doing with them at that point in time, but how it's really, salvation is really a work of God. And it's got nothing to do with us except for our availability to be that vessel.
And a lot of times, I think it is a special blessing if you get to see somebody does call you back and say, hey, I got saved, or hey, I got off of heroin, or hey, whatever was going on in their life that God did. But I know a really good friend of mine, which you know as well, before he was saved, he was approached by a young man at a McDonald's. And the guy was like, just simple, trying to witness to him, maybe Campus Crusade, just trying to say, hey, have you ever been born again, saying something. And the guy had enough guts to approach my friend, who was a big old football player, just kind of popular dude, and he was quite brash and arrogant in high school. And with this Christian, he mocked the guy publicly till the guy was tearing up.
Wow.
And my buddy said after he had been saved, he goes, that burnt me on my conscience, doing that to that guy that was coming up to me meekly in the love of Christ, and trying to let me know about the gospel. And he feared God a little bit, but he wasn't saved, and he was just in front of his friends, so he mocks this guy to tears. He said, it wouldn't leave my mind ever since that guy. So that other guy, he may have felt dejected. I'm sure God blessed him with that suffering, something about the fellowship of his suffering, some special blessing happens when you just went, and all of a sudden somebody out of some demonic inspiration just tries to knock your block off. There's a little gift, the Lord blesses his children in that way. But I've often thought that guy never had any idea that guy was going to end up going to several different countries, ministering in deep third world prisons and jungles and all sorts of things that my buddy did, with the Lord since then. And that guy would say, no, that arrogant jerk, he never, and you don't always get that, but to go and be willing to sow seed like that is admirable.
And it's so good that we're not God, and we're not the ones that determine.
Oh, I'm cranky. Everybody go to hell, dude.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times we're like, oh, that person will never get saved. Oh, that person is so far gone. It's not for us to judge that.
It is not.
It's not that is not up to us. Our job is to do and to be like these people with the Extreme Tour, to just be willing vessels. And here's something else that I thought about. When I was saved, Dan, I remember at the Voldemort's fun park we were at, they were asking me, well, what kind of music do you like? Of course, they were getting me to switch my type of music that I like to listen to. So, of course, they send me over to Zondervan's to the, go check stuff out, and that's where I wind up. And most of the stuff that was Christian music in the early 90s, late 90s, I bought it, but I didn't like it. To me, it was cheesy. And it was. A lot of that stuff was just pure cheese. And I think that really, because it's not genuine, and that was the problem with it. That's what I was reacting to. It was not genuine.
You had to dig a little deeper in the Christian genre to get the good stuff.
You had to.
Like the Swirling Eddies.
Okay, that I'm swoon.
I love Daniel Amos and the Swirling Eddies.
Great.
But you got to be weird to appreciate.
You do. Yeah, you do. I remember when we presented the Swirling Eddies tape to Voldemort, and he listened to it, and his reaction to us, he looked at it after he listened. He was like, "You guys are sick." Yes, we are.
That was Dr. Edward Daniel Taylor's Miracle Faith Telethon of Love. That's a great album. If you can find that one.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
I've played it for Deb, and she's like, "What in the world are you listening to?"
We love that, man.
Absolutely love it. But there is a genuine stream, and it's just like anything with the church. Unfortunately, Satan's come in and perverted it, made it look powerless, made it cheesy. But there's a stream, and there's always been a stream. There's been a remnant that's always been had their hearts towards the Lord that He uses. And every person that I came in contact with, and even my kids and even my wife Deb, after we left, not only was it a show that demonstrated the love of Christ in its truest form, but the quality of the talent and the gifting that was displayed was just amazing. It was not that cheese that I came in contact with at Zondervan's in the mid-90s.
Yeah, it's beautiful. When God shows up, He blesses everybody.
He does. So we're looking forward to them coming back next year.
Yeah, I got to make it this next time.
And hopefully we can help them get a few more places now that I understand how it all works.
Well, Glennard, how can people help them do what they do? And, how do they do that? And what do they need?
Definitely. Some of the things that they need when they come into a town, they will come. Harry was telling me that, hey, let me explain it this way. Their heart is if the money's not there, it's not there. They just move in God's faith. They do require food. They do require lodging when they come into the town.
Whoa, that's a little too far. Food? That's over the top.
There's several meals. This year, what they needed about $1,500. That's not a lot of money.
No,
when you really think about it. $1,500 is not a lot of money. They are looking for areas to go into that are basically your highest risk areas where that basically the church is written off. I don't see many mega ministry churches going into the type of areas that they went into or that they go into. That's what they're looking for. But the support that they need is financial. The support that they need is food when they come into town. And also they need lodging. That's a major thing. And what Victory Christian Church did is everybody stayed at the church, that's
cost
great.
effective.
Yeah, very cost effective. It's great. And it just so happened that their show, the show that they were doing, the event, let's call it that. I don't want to call it a show because anything but a show. It was an event that was anointed by the Lord. Happened to be on a Sunday, so they led worship that Sunday at the church that they stayed at. And that church, I believe, received a blessing from Harry and Mel and everybody that was there for allowing them to do that. So those are the things that they need, and you can reach out to us over here at lithoscry.com, lithoscry@gmail.com, and we can get you set up with Harry and Mel and the Extreme Tour if you want them to come into your community. And I highly encourage it because what they do is so effective.
Awesome.
Harry, Mel, everybody that was with the tour, thanks for coming through Charleston. Thank you for putting up with me and letting me hang out with you for the 2 days. It was absolutely wonderful. We love you, and you will be hearing more from some of these artists from the Extreme Tour that we experienced down here in Charleston on the Get Real podcast. So, peace out, people.